All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to UFC 322, Della Maddalena versus Makhachev. Big fight week coming up. We got a really good fight card to break down and some good picks and predictions coming your way. So let's get right into it. All right, starting off in the lightweight division. Not sure this bout order is completely official yet, but I think this is what it's going to look like. We got Vyacheslav Barshov taking on Mateus Camilo. Barshov plus 140, Camilo minus 160. If you know, you've seen one Slavikov's fight, you've seen them all. Good, very good striker. Rips hooks to the body a lot, comes upstairs to the head when he feels like it. Obviously, only 33, but he's starting to get up there in age in terms of fight years. He had a really extensive kickboxing career, turned that over to the UFC, but his chin's starting to give out. The takedown defense hasn't always been there, but he's a really good scrambler from the bottom, can stay alive in those positions on bottom. Obviously, he wasn't able to do that against Terrence McKinney, but he's always a fast starter. You know, losing to Terrence McKinney in the first round isn't. There are plenty of people that's happened to, so you can't really blame him for that, especially considering his age. He's taking on Mateus Camilo, winless in the UFC, but he's a pretty good fighter. Sharp striker on the feet. This guy fights a lot longer than he looks, and he actually fights very well doing that. A lot of power in his hands, good straight shots on the ground, very dangerous. Also, we saw that against Gabe Green, but we also saw him kind of gassed out as that fight went on. We also saw him. I'm not gonna say he quit, but he had a triangle choke locked in on Gabe Green, and when he lost that triangle choke, there was little resistance when Gabe Green went for the submission himself on the ground from Camilo. Could have just been he burned his legs out, but we'll see in this fight. This is a lot better matchup for Camilo. He's not going to deal with a big, lanky guy that can grapple as well as Gabe Green. I think also in this matchup he's gonna have a speed advantage against Borshov, but obviously you got to be careful of the just the kickboxing experience and the chin on Borshov and the dog in him, because this guy is a dog, right? We've seen him countless fights be hurt bad. And the Nazim Sadikov fight is a perfect example of that. That's his draw on his record, because he was beating Nazim up in the first round, got hurt very badly in the first round. He had a flush head kick, came back and won the third round against Nazim Sadikov, who we know is a very good fighter. So for a pick, I'm going to pick Camilo here. Not crazy confident, as we've seen in the past. Camilo can be susceptible to stuff on the ground and on the feet, but Borshov isn't really going to have that dynamic attack for him. So give me Camilo winning the fight by decision. All right, next fight. This is a pretty much easier fight to break down. We got Baisungur Susurkayev taking on Eric Makhaniko. Susurkayev minus 800, Makhaniko plus 575. Forgot to mention last slide, we got new graphics. So obviously, all the information is the same on it, but in terms of just the colors and the just the presentation, and this is designed by my good friends Fino. I'm linking his channel up below or above, but yeah, it just makes all the colors pop really well, and it kind of helps the fighters stand out. But anyways, for this fight, we got Chisakaya. This guy's very dangerous everywhere. Came off the Contender Series with a lot of hype around him. Made his short notice UFC debut just 4 days after the Contender Series fight and beat a very good Eric Nolan. Not without some scary moments. It's a pretty big favorite, but he did beat Eric Nolan, who, as we know, is a very good fighter. Take on Eric Conoco, who's had a rocky UFC run himself. 1-1 the promotion. His only win is a pretty sketchy decision win against Cody Brundage. Got flatlined by Rizzaboyev in round 2, but he's mainly a grappler. Likes to work in takedowns when he can. Can strike offensively as well. Not very high volume, though, which is a problem. And it's going to be a problem in this fight, too. Listen, Susurkayev just should be the far more dangerous, far better striker. We see McConaughey get chinned before, and Susurkayev landing that knockout blow would not be surprising at all. Obviously, he can work in submissions, too, but I expect this fight to be done in one round on the feet. So give me Susurkayev to win by knockout. Pretty easy breakdown there. All right, next fight at Strawweight. Number 12 ranked Angela Hill taking on Fatima Klein. Hill, big dog in this fight, plus 385. Klein, minus 500. I will tell you one thing right off the bat. These odds to me are absolutely insane. Because, you know, for all the hype Fatima has and for all the things she brings, obviously, because she trains out of that Aaron Blanchfield fight camp. She has the dog that Aaron Blanchfield does. She has the grappling, too. She also has striking. We saw that in her last fight where she wasn't able to get takedowns as well as she thought, but the striking certainly held up against Melissa Martinez. Found the head kick knockout in the third round. But listen, man, Angela Hill's still a good fighter, right? She's been doing this for a long ass time, as you can see with her lengthy record, her veteran age. But she's still looking good in these fights. Obviously, she dropped it to Yasmin Lucindo, but that's a very tough stylistic matchup for Angela Hill, but she's still very fast on the feet, good cardio, can work at pace, and is extremely tough, right? And God knows how many UFC fights. I believe it's around 25 to 30 UFC fights. She's only been finished once by submission, never been knocked out before in her career. So that really is incredible considering how lengthy her career has been. And I was honestly considering picking her in this spot because we saw last fight, Klein's takedowns are not amazing. She was having trouble getting those takedowns against Melissa Martinez, who's historically been like a really bad grappler. So, if she's not able to get takedowns with Angela Hill, I don't think she'll have as much success on the feet. But I'm going to pick Klein because if she is able to get takedowns, she's shown her grappling is absolutely outstanding. One. And two, obviously, she's shown her last fight she can hang on the feet, and she's got a pretty big size advantage here too. So as she's able to get close to Angela Hill, dirty boxing, knees, elbows, all that's going to be pretty effective against the aging but still very live veteran in Angela Hill. So picking Fatima Klein, definitely not as confident as -500. I'd stay away from this if I were you. Angela Hill +3.5 might be the way to go. All right, next fight, featherweight fight. We got Pat Sabatini taking on Chepe Mariscal. Pat Sabatini -135 favorite, Mariscal +115. I'll tell you right now, I think these odds are completely wrong for multiple reasons. One being Chepe Mariscal's already beaten Pat Sabatini, right? We know who Mariscal is by now. This guy's a gritty brawler as his style proceeds, and this guy's gonna get in your face. He's gonna swing wild in the pocket. Obviously not a crazy amount of power, but he has a couple knockouts on his record. But he wants to be as in close with the wrestling and the grappling. This guy's got really good judo. That is his background, is judo. These guys got tosses, throws, normal conventional takedowns as well. On top, he's nasty. He elbows, hammer fists, whatever he wants to do on the ground, he'll try to throw it. Works in submissions as well. This guy's a very, very well-rounded dude, a dog, just an absolutely gritty dude, undefeated in the UFC so far. So he's been looking very good in the promotion. But Pat Sabatini, in his own right, is not, I'm not going to say a one-dimensional dude because he's shown, flashes and everywhere, but he is essentially a very, very dangerous grappler. He does have wrestling, though. He can give fights to the ground if he can, does have good takedown defense, but where he wants to fight is obviously on the ground, right? We've seen weaknesses on the feet, too. When he's unable to get to the ground, he can be chinny, he can be hurt. He has been knocked out multiple times, so there is concern to the chin. But if he gets to the ground, he's always going to be dangerous. So obviously, that's a concern for him for Chepe in this fight. But besides that, I don't really see why Mariscal should be the underdog in this fight. He's got grit. He's got way better striking. He's got a good wrestling base. He's got a good judo base. All that should help prevent him from getting on the ground with Pat Sabatini. I think Sabatini's win over Joannis Brito is kind of inflating this line a little bit too much, in my opinion. Brito is pulling guillotine, trying to play off his back against Pat Sabatini. That's never going to work. I know Chepe Mariscal isn't going to jump guillotine in this fight, right? He's going to stay calm on the feet, avoid those takedowns, and go to work on Pat Sabatini. I think he's eventually going to find a finish. So give me Chepe Mariscal to get his technically his second UFC knockout, first knockout with strikes in this fight. All right, moving on. Middleweight fight. We got Kyle Dawkins taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Dawkins -350, Gerald Meerschaert +285. And I do get it, right? Kyle Dawkins, and there's going to be people dissing him. And, I do get it because his first UFC one was pretty ugly, honestly, because we've seen, in the past, he can be chinny sometimes, like his brother, unathletic at times. But, we've shown on the regional scene his fight with Pereira, he has evolved a little bit, right? As you know, he's always been a really good grappler, but showed off the power in his last fight. Put out Michel Pereira in 45 seconds, I believe, which is a good feather in the cap for Kyle Dawkins. And that's just going to bring him so much confidence against a wilting Gerald Meerschaert, who hasn't really shown much life in his past couple fights. Just is old, slowing down, upwards of 57 professional fights, which is, you got to tip your cap to someone staying in the ring for that long, but it takes a toll. And in Gerald's case, it definitely has. This dude has looked very off his last couple fights. If he's not able to get the takedown, he looks lost on the feet. And due to the fact that I've seen Kyle Dawkins evolve his striking to where he's knocking out strikers, at this point. I think it's a fair pick to put Kyle as one of my most confident picks on the card. And I get him having concerns being minus 350, but I think it's a steal against Gerald Meerschaert. I think Meerschaert's pretty much done at this point. Obviously, I have to respect him because he's been around so long. He's a legend. He's pulled off some of the greatest comeback wins I've seen. But at this point, we got to be done with him. I'm picking Dawkins to win by knockout. This shouldn't be a surprise to most people. All right, we got a very intriguing fight next at bantamweight. Malcolm Wellmaker taking on Cody Haddon. Wellmaker open as a dog, but is now minus 160. Cody Haddon plus 130. Listen, I do completely understand if you're on Cody Haddon in this fight because, in terms of I guess mixed martial arts offense, he is the more well-rounded guy, right? Because Wellmaker is primarily a striker, but we've seen Cody Haddon mix it up, right? He was able to defend Dana Argetta's takedowns. He was able to get his own takedowns in that fight, and he definitely showed off the striking, and he definitely did that as well in his Contender Series fight against Billy Brand, where he's able to drop Billy Brand on the feet and submit him as soon as he got it to the ground. And Billy Brand is a very good winner for Contender Series. He was another guy with a lot of hype in that fight. So, fair play to him. And I think if he was right off the Contender Series for both these guys, I probably would have picked Haddon because I think I was far higher on Haddon coming out of the Contender Series. But in terms of just the UFC and the way Wellmaker performed, and I get it, Chris Matino is a can, so that makes sense that he was able to knock him out. But just the power and the way he throws his strikes. And I do rip on him at times for not throwing in combinations, right? This guy is mainly a one punch and done type of guy. But he sets it up so well. He isn't just blind throwing these bombs at people, right? He sets it up. He's patient. He's calm. He waits for his opportunities. And this guy, when he lands on people, they go to sleep, and they go to sleep bad. So, we've seen Cody Haddon for all the good things that Cody Haddon brings to the table. This guy gets hit a lot. And in that Dan Argetta fight, he got hit a bunch in that fight. And I think if you're getting hit that much against Dan Argetta, I think Malcolm Wellmaker, with that size, the accuracy of his strikes, he lands one big bomb. I think Cody Haddon's going to be in real trouble. And I think the thing about it is Wellmaker also has good takedown defense. So if Haddon is panic wrestling at any point in this fight, he's going to be in a world of trouble, in my opinion. So give me Wellmaker to win this fight. I think he knocks out Cody Haddon early in this fight. I think it just proves that he's on a really high level in his mixed martial arts career. All right, next fight at Flyweight, Aaron Blanchfield taking on Tracy Cortez. This is another rematch. I mentioned the Pat Sabatini and Chepe Mariscal fight is a rematch. This is also a rematch, and this is also the underdog won their first fight. This is back a long time ago, but Invicta FC, Tracy Cortez did beat Aaron Blanchfield by split decision. Now we're back again in the UFC. Bigger stakes this time, though. Potential title shot in the line here. Maybe not because of the clog up at Flyweight, but this should be still a pretty high level fight. Aaron Blanchfield, the minus 240 favorite. Tracy Cortez plus 205. As I mentioned, Blanchfield lost the first fight, but the strides she's shown in her striking and takedowns have looked very good to me, in my opinion. Listen, I like the obviously the grappling speaks for itself, right? If she gets people on the ground, she's shown to be a danger at all times, right? And it is unfortunate that she hasn't fought in a while, but that isn't her fault. She was supposed to main event against Macy Barber. I was gonna pick her in that fight, but unfortunately, the sort of fuckery in that matchup got pulled. But in this fight, I do like her chances because like I said, she's gonna have a grappling advantage against Tracy Cortez, but maybe not the wrestling because we haven't seen people actively try to take her down, and Tracy Cortez will. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. But Aaron Blanchfield, she's shown if she gets on the ground, she can reverse positions. She can get on top, and she's very, very dangerous on top. And she's shown she has dog in her, right? Maybe her wrestling isn't the best in the division, but even if she doesn't get takedowns, she still try to shoot takedowns and try to shoot takedowns. And on the feet, her striking maybe isn't the best, but she'll stay in your face. She'll be working big shots in the pocket. She will not stop for 25 minutes if needed, or for 15 minutes, which is this fight. And Tracy Cortez, given a lot of credit, she has evolved too. Her striking has looked very good in the past, but it is obviously the wrestling that is her main path to success in that fight. I was really hoping she should have been able to get Araujo out of there last fight, but she still looked very good in that performance. But I am going to pick Blanchfield here to win this fight by decision. I just think the jiu-jitsu is two completely different gaps. And even if that isn't, a big factor, I think the dog in Aaron Blanchfield and the kind of cardio and the pace that she can bring is going to not necessarily break, but win minutes and rounds against Tracy Cortez. So give me Blanchfield to win by decision. All right, so we have banger at middleweight. We got Roman Kopylov taking on Gregory Rodriguez. Kopylov, the plus 140 underdog. Gregory Rodriguez, minus 160. I'm honestly surprised these two haven't fought. They've kind of both been lingering around the top 15 of middleweight for quite some time. But for Kopylov, obviously we know who he is. Great striker, fast kicks. He has that rear high kick. He's knocked out 2 people in the UFC with that. That's obviously one of his great tools. But he's shown deficiencies, right? His takedown defense is very good, but he's shown the last couple fights that his cardio just is not good enough for the UFC, not necessarily for the top 15. He can't really hang in these extended fights. We saw against Paulo Costa, the striking really wasn't going in his way in the first round. He never really made an adjustment to try to go out there and win that fight. And he started fading and fading hard. Even in the Chris Curtis fight, he started fading in that fight. Found that weird stoppage in the third round. And against Cesar Almeida, if Cesar Almeida had an ounce more of takedown defense, he probably got knocked out in that fight because he was struggling on the feet and he was gassing hard in that fight until he was able to find those takedowns. But, one thing he's not going to be able to do is take down Gregory Rodriguez because this is the thing. The grappling edge is going to be very big in this fight. It's just a matter of what Gregory Rodriguez plans to do early in this fight. Does he want to strike a lot with Roman Kopylov? Because if so, then I do worry a little bit because he is a bit chinny. Rodriguez is, and he is very, very hittable on the feet. But what this guy carries, big grappling hold advantage in this fight. Good, very good wrestling. If he chooses to wrestle early and often, gonna get Kopylov tired. I'm gonna work Kopylov on the ground. And obviously he can mix in striking too. I think it's gonna be very similar to his win over Christian Leroy Duncan, where he was able to grapple early, and then as the fight went on, kind of use his stand up on the feet, the dirty boxing, the clinch work, and I think eventually he's gonna be able to break Kopylov like that. Christian Leroy Duncan's got a great shin. Kopylov, not so much in my opinion. I think if Rodriguez lands the same shots he lands on him, he's going to put him out. So give me Rodriguez to win by late knockout in this fight. Obviously, the odds make sense in my opinion because there is that factor of Kopylov very dangerous in the first round, but I think Rodriguez should be fine here. Give me by knockout. All right, feature prelim, we got Bo Nickel taking on Rodolfo Vieira. Bo Nickel, famously, off that hilarious, it's not a fraud check, but it was his first loss as a mixed martial arts fighter. I think this is the first time I've seen the whole of mixed martial arts Twitter on one side. That was a very, very funny time for the timeline. But obviously, he's a minus 230 favorite in this fight. Rodolfo Vieira plus 195. And there's one question that I think will determine the winner or loser of this fight. Is Bo Nickel better than Andre Petroski? Because we saw Andre Petroski have success striking in that fight, which I think Bo Nickel can. And we saw Andre Petroski defend the takedowns of Rodolfo Vieira, which Bo Nickel definitely has better takedowns than Petroski. So that is the true question because we know what both these guys want to do. Bo Nickel, amazing grappler, amazing wrestler, good grappler as well, not very good striking. Rodolfo Vieira, incredible jiu-jitsu, okay wrestling, okay striking. But eventually, I do think this isn't going to be a case where I think the wrestling cancels out. I think Bo Nickel's just going to have a slight edge in the striking. I think Bo Nickel's going to have the wrestling advantage, and ultimately that's going to determine where the fight's going to take place is his wrestling. But, I think Bo Nickel can mainly control where the fight goes, has a little bit better striking, given to me by decision. But, obviously, you got to see where his headspace is after the first loss, but he should be fine, in my opinion. All right, moving on to the main card at lightweight. We got Beneil Dariush taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. Dariush plus 160, Saint-Denis minus 185. Listen, if this was a couple years back, I would be all over Dariush because obviously power in the hands and great grappling. One of the best scramblers in this division. But we're looking at a guy that's been, dropped his last 3 fights, knocked out in 2 of them, barely escaped against Renato Moicano, which is, getting dropped by Moicano was not a very good look because he doesn't have power at all. So obviously Saint-Denis lost to Moicano, but I think those are 2 different circumstances. Saint-Denis, in my opinion, has not necessarily evolved, but has definitely looked more competent in terms of his fight IQ and in terms of where he wants the fight to go. He uses wrestling a lot more urgently now of trying to get fights to the ground. Obviously, the dude's hittable as shit. So if Dariush comes in and is able to defend the takedowns and sleeps this guy, I wouldn't be surprised because I think the odds are a little bit too wide in this fight. And Saint-Denis, obviously, he does have the chance of getting chinned in this fight because he gets hit so much. But the thing about Santini is he doesn't slow down for 15 minutes. Renato Moicano did. And if Santini brings in the same pressure that Moicano did and the power, which is going to be a lot more in this fight, Santini can really put a beating on Beneil Dariush, maybe even just on the feet. So, I like Santini's pressure in this fight to get to Beneil Dariush in his advanced age, and I like the power on the Benoit Santini side. So, and I think he can hang with him on the ground, maybe get his own takedowns going. Just keep him on the ground 10, 20 seconds, let him back up, and continue to bully him in the clinch. So, give me Santini to win the fight by knockout. Not crazy confident, but I do trust him to you know get his game plan going in this fight. All right, should be a fun fight at welterweight next. Leon Edwards taking on Carlos Prates. Leon Edwards plus 170, Carlos Prates minus 200. Obviously, Leon Edwards, the former champion, good kickboxer, likes to use those kicks kind of as his first level striking offense. Then he'll get the hands going as soon as he feels more comfortable with the kicks at range. Very good grappler as well. He does average a couple takedowns per fight, but I've seen his takedown defense and his grappling defense fail him in these last couple fights, where he's just been kind of bullied, honestly. Hasn't really shown too much heart in those fights. Hasn't really shown the ability to adapt his game plan in those fights. But obviously, he's not dealing with a grappler in this fight. But you do have to question the headspace of Leon Edwards in this fight because he's coming off of two pretty bad losses in a row. You got to be obviously questioning at 34 years old. Is this it for me? Am I done at the elite spot of this division? Obviously, all those things have got to be going through your head when you're Leon Edwards in this fight. Because he's taking on a guy in Carlos Prates that is coming in with supreme confidence. I know he lost 2 fights ago to Ian Gary, but that spinning elbow knockout against Jeff Neal was absolutely incredible and brought back all the hype around him and some for Carlos Prates. That was just a setback for him, in my opinion. This guy, as everyone knows, this guy's got Muay Thai tatted across his chest, and he certainly strikes like a Muay Thai fighter, right? Very good. Not necessarily in combination, but very, very powerful. Fights with long. He's going to maybe have a height disadvantage in this fight, but I promise you he's going to be the longer fighter. Big power in his hands, diverse set of attacks, spinning attacks, flying knees. He has it all, and he certainly has, surprisingly good cardio for someone that chain smokes. So you got to give that to him. But I think in this fight, the key for Leon to win, in my opinion, is not to just panic wrestle, right? Because we've seen Prates being able to defend very, very, good wrestler. Not good wrestler, but an okay wrestler in Ian Gary. He was able to defend almost all those takedowns. He's a very good anti-wrestler, is what I meant to say. But so I think the key for Leon in this fight is not to necessarily force wrestling, but use the kicks that's to set up the takedowns. Because in the Gary fight, we saw Prates struggle with the kicks of Ian Gary. That really kind of limited his rear hand from the southpaw stance. And then even from orthodox, Prates was having trouble getting his right hand going. So obviously that's going to be a concern for Prates if Leon Edwards gets his kicks going, is able to work in the clinch and the takedowns. Could be a bit of a problem, but in my opinion, I think Carlos Prates is much too dangerous, much too fast for Leon Edwards in this fight. I feel like it's just going to be a matter of time before Prates is able to find the chin of Leon Edwards. And once he does, we've seen Edwards get hurt badly multiple times in these fights. We got hurt against Bilal Muhammad, Nate Diaz. You're getting hit by Carlos Prates and you're getting hurt by those guys. I think there's a very good chance Leon Edwards can go down in this fight. So give me Prates to win the fight by knockout. Not as confident as minus 200, maybe as I was initially, but I think there's a very good chance this can be a showcase opportunity for Carlos. All right, another welterweight fight. This is potentially a number one contender fight, even though there's Bilal Muhammad versus Gary in a couple weeks. We got Sean Brady. He's taking on Michael Morales. Sean Brady, as we know, very decorated grappler. That's kind of where he only wants the fight to be, is on the ground. He obviously has decent striking. He's evolved his game to have that striking acumen, but once he gets the takedown, he's very, very dangerous on top, blanketing with the control. If you get taken down by him, there's a high probability you're not going to get up for the rest of the round. But, there has been some holes in the striking. Got knocked out by Bilal Muhammad, which isn't great, but He's kind of feel like he's kind of put it all together recently, coming off of a show-stopping performance against Leon Edwards, where he got takedowns whenever he wanted to, was on top almost the whole time, dominating in that fight, and eventually found that guillotine. Fighting Miles Morales or Michael Michael Morales, not Spider Man. Great movie though, but that's not the Morales I'm talking about. I'm talking about Michael Morales, who is also a very good fighter, athletic as all hell. And he's a very good striker. He's a very good wrestler as well. National champion Muay Thai in Ecuador. National champion wrestler in Ecuador. But in the cage is mainly a striker. Diverse set of attacks on the feet, spinning attacks, long, powerful strikes. He's got that rangy uppercut that he threw against Gilbert Burns that put his lights out, where he really digs that collar or that collar tie, pounds him with the uppercut, got him out of there in that first round in the main event. But he's shown he can also win decisions too, right? He's mainly been knocking out his opponents, but he saw against Jake Matthews and against a couple other pretty good guys. He was able to weather a storm. Not really necessarily weather a storm, but be consistent over 3 rounds with his output, his takedowns, and his volume, and win a decision, which I like to see out of a young fighter. But in my opinion, this is a little bit too soon of a step up for him because going from Gilbert Burns, who's very, very washed at that point, excuse me, going from Gilbert Burns to Sean Brady is two completely different people, in my opinion. I picked Gilbert in that fight, and God knows why I did that, but pick Gilbert in that fight, and I'm going to pick Sean Brady in this fight because I think the difference between Gilbert and Sean Brady is that Brady is a little bit more, I want to say, aware of the strikes coming back his way on the feet. Obviously, if he gets hit, we've seen he can get hurt, but the thing is, his wrestling is so good and his control is so good that I haven't really seen enough from Morales to, say with 100% confidence that he'd be able to stuff takedowns and get up if he was taken down. So I'm going to trust my gut and go with the more reliable fighter here. I'm going to pick Sean Brady to win the fight by decision. All right, sorry for that cut. My throat was a little bit dry, but we got Valentin Shevchenko taking on Zhang Weili in the first of 2 title fights and the first of 2 super fights, actually, in this card. Valentin Shevchenko, the minus 135 favorite. Zhang Weili plus 115. And I think that in this fight, obviously, we got 2 legends in this fight. And this could potentially be for, the women's go, kind of putting Amanda Nunes to the side. These 2 women are absolutely, extensive accolades in their respective divisions. Obviously, Valentina Shevchenko got all 8 of her rubies on that belt, and she's defended that time and time again. She defended against Spinal Furo early this year on the same card as Jack Della Maddalena won his title. Obviously, for Zhang Weili, very dominant at strawweight. Only really Rose Namajunas caused her any problems in the strawweight division. And she, like I said, she's been absolutely dominant in her reign as strawweight champion, coming off of the beating of Tatiana Suarez, where she absolutely beat her everywhere. She's moving up in weight classes, but I think the differences in this fight is the athleticism discrepancy. I know Valentina, they're both kind of similar ages, but I think Valentina Shevchenko was showing her age a little bit more than Zhang Weili, in my opinion, because Shevchenko, obviously, she had the Grasso trilogy, which she lost the first one, drove the second one, and dominated the third one, but she's doing this mainly with wrestling. I think with Zhang Weili, she can do it all, right? She can strike, a very diverse striker, but she can also wrestle too. We saw her against Tatiana Suarez take her down a lot. And that's a very good wrestler grappler. So I don't think there's really going to be a huge size discrepancy in this fight. And in terms of athleticism, I think Weili blows Shevchenko out of the water in terms of athleticism. I think she's much faster, hits a little bit harder. There's also more dangerous on the ground. So I think in terms of, I think people are kind of overblowing this move up to flyweight for Zhang Weili. People are like, oh, okay, Shevchenko is the natural flyweight. She should be, bigger in this fight. She hits harder, and we've seen Zhang Weili hurt. But I think the big difference is, like I said, athleticism, huge discrepancy. And Zhang Weili's got that dog in her. She's shown she can tough out rough situations. And, Shevchenko, not she didn't have dog. She has championship medal, of course, but we've seen her kind of cut the corners closely in these last, 5 fights. Split decision to Tyler Santos. Lost to Grasso, draw with Grasso, beat Grasso. Very close decision with Manuel Fiora. So I like Zhang Weili in this fight. I love the price tag on her at plus 115. I think you're getting an absolute steal with that. I think she should be a favorite in this fight. So give me her to win by decision in this fight. All right, now we got the main event for all the marbles at welterweight. We got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Islam Makhachev. Makhachev firmly entrenched at minus 150. Della Maddalena plus 210. Did I say plus 150? I mean plus 250. Apologies. But we got Jack Della Maddalena, new champion at welterweight. This guy's an incredible boxer with very good defensive grappling. When he's on the feet, this guy's got a good in and out style with his boxing. Can work the leg kicks before getting that jab going, gets the combinations going. But it's the way he defends the takedowns and the way he works on the bottom that really caused him to become this champion. Because when he has that high guard and when he's defending takedowns, he'll lower that guard, dig uppercuts, get those underhooks, and push out. So use the classic wrestling term. You got to use your head as your first line of defense, and he definitely uses that in his fights. He'll use the head first, and then he'll get those underhooks and defend those takedowns. And obviously, as I said before, on the feet, this guy's an absolute wizard with his boxing. Great head movement, good timing on his strikes, gets his jab going before working all his attacks. But when he gets his hands going, he's the best striker of this division, hands down. And he's taking Islam Makhachev, legend at this point. Islam Makhachev, incredible sambo specialist. Great kickboxing on the feet. Has developed that kickboxing to be a great striker himself. Has knocked out Volkanovski, giving Dustin Poirier problems on the feet. The Moicano fight, that's Moicano. I can't really say anything else about that. But, obviously he struck with Volkanovski and had success. Dustin Poirier, obviously washed Dustin Poirier, but he still had success in that fight. But obviously his bread and butter is this grappling. He gets that grappling going. He's a nightmare on top. Suffocating pressure, great front headlock sequence. Obviously, if he's on top of you in mount, any of those dominant positions, you always got to watch your neck. So, this guy's certainly a problem for almost anyone on any given day. But here's the thing about Islam Makhachev is that I don't necessarily think the weight is going to be a problem because he looks very, very jacked, strong in these pictures and videos I'm seeing. So I don't necessarily think like the move to welterweight's going to be a problem. I don't think he's going to be undersized or anything like that. I think he's going to be very big in this fight. I think the problem with him is potentially, his striking. Obviously his striking is very good, but he's on the level of Jack Della Maddalena's. I don't know. Is he going to be able to get takedowns at will like he did against Hinata Moicano? I don't know because he was struggling against those takedowns with Dustin Poirier, struggling against Volkanovski, and Jack Della Maddalena has a very similar scramble style to Volkanovski, right? Lots of movement from the bottom, lots of try to sweeps to try to get up to his feet rather than get top position. That's good for him because he obviously doesn't want to be on top and get swept by Islam. So I think for Jack, the key is going to be very busy on bottom, work up to your feet as soon as possible, which I think he can do, right? He's a very big guy himself. So, not that Makhachev is undersized, but Jack will have the size advantage in this fight. He's going to get aggressive on bottom, sweep, get back up to his feet, defend those takedowns. And on the feet, I think once he gets downhill on Islam Makhachev, I think he's going to have a lot of success on Makhachev. I think a lot more than people are giving him credit for. Obviously, Islam maybe not being, deteriorated by this weight, by the weight cut, is going to have probably a speed advantage, maybe potentially a power advantage. But Jack Della Maddalena, I'm telling you guys, this guy's striking is absolutely incredible. This guy's takedown defense and scrambling defense is incredible. I've been high on him for a while. I picked him against Bilal Muhammad with supreme confidence, and he blew Bilal Muhammad out of the water. I'm going to pick him again against Islam Makhachev to win this fight. Not as confident as I did against Bilal Muhammad because, Islam Makhachev is obviously amazing, but I truly think Jack Della Maddalena is going to be a long reigning champion in this weight class. This guy has all the tools: championship medal, heart, striking, grappling. I think he has it all. I think he puts it all together against Islam Makhachev and wins this fight by decision. And that's going to be the end of the breakdown. So obviously, pretty loaded card. A lot of stuff to go over. Pretty long video. But we got UFC 323 coming up in about a month. So, as between that, we also have UFC Qatar. After that, we have Royval versus Cop. All very good cards. So, going to be pretty exciting end to the year, the ESPN era, I should say. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I just hope to see you guys next week.